this is a show that we did, Ring of Fire, with Theatre Terrific in the 1980s in Vancouver, where I had ended up after emigrating in 1982 to Canada, and ended up in Vancouver in 1986. And here was Theatre Terrific. So I took over the artistic director's job, and we produced plays every year to go into schools, school shows with disabled actors, because Theatre Terrific was specifically for and about people with disabilities of all kinds and any kinds. They were all welcome to come and strut their stuff on the stage and be part of the Theatre Terrific company. So we produced a show every year for schools, and we toured throughout British Columbia. About 2,500 children each year saw this van pulling up with Theatre Terrific on the outside. And Anne was the driver. She was the stage manager, and she unloaded everybody and off they went. And one of the memorable quotes is that one of the kids saw the disabled actors wheeling out in their wheelchairs with their guide dogs and one thing and another, and said, "But where are the actors?" And Chris, who was in a wheelchair, said, we're the actors. Do you want to come and see us? And so they hived off to the school hall and saw Ring of Fire. And just to say that we did shows that were about issues that kids faced in school, like good-looking friends and trying to be in with the good-looking group. And if you weren't in with the good-looking group, then you were an outsider. And Ring of Fire was to do with the truth and telling the truth, and how lies spread like a ring of fire. Once you start the fire grows and grows, and just like that, a lie once told, and then you have to keep backing it up and expanding and expanding, and it gets to be uncontrolled and a risk and dangerous to you and your honesty and your integrity and people believing in you and trusting you and everything else. So it was to do with integrity and speaking your, walking your walk and talking your talk. And don't tell lies, because they can escape and become really destructive. So that was Ring of Fire.
Firstly, a piece of my model railway, which is that, I think it's, yeah, which was my first purchase. And on the end of the box, it says, I don't know if you can actually see that, most probably not, but it says £4, 8 shillings and 6pence. So that gives you some idea of its age. It's a Hornby Dublo locomotive. It was originally, I think it was originally Cardiff Castle when it first came out, but I've renumbered it and renamed it since. But that is it. There's a whole load more to it as well, but unfortunately, I am unable in this property to lay all the model railway out. But it's still a working locomotive. It's most probably 50 plus years old now, but it's a real good heavy construction, and it was made in those days by Meccano to last. So that's one of my favourite ones, one which I cherish dearly. And my second item are these two, I'll move back a bit, these two antlers. My father's mother, my gran, she was born and bred in Abbots Bromley in Staffordshire, and they hold annually, and still do, the Abbots Bromley Horn Dance, where they dress up as deer and wear much bigger antlers than these, but this is where these come from, and they have them on their heads. And it's a very old pagan ritual, I suppose you would describe it, which still carries on. If you look on the internet, you'll see where it is held. And I think it's something like about the first week in September when it's undertaken. And that's where they came from. And as I say, my gran came from Abbots Bromley. I have been to Abbots Bromley and I've seen where she was born. I didn't at the time have the horns and appreciate their history, but I do now. And now I found out a bit more about it. I plan to actually go to Abbots Bromley, hopefully next year, and see the actual horn dance performed. And I'll take the horns with me because they might feel at home. So those are my two keepsakes. Thank you.
Now, since 2002, when I won him in a raffle at Info Barracks. I gave him as a present to my mother, and she kept him on her dressing table for many years. When she was ill, I would often go in at night, and she would take the teddy, and she would take Teddy, kiss him, and then have it on the nose, and then have him wave good night to me. When she died in 2012, I couldn't bring myself to get rid of Teddy, so I've kept him as a reminder of mother, and I also put him on the chair every day, so that he's company for me in the sitting room, and he's always there when I go out during the day and at night, and when I come back. He's a little reminder of mother. Now, recently, Teddy has a friend, Raggedy, who I originally bought as for my niece, and the two of them seem to go very well together. That I bought a companion, and the two are now very good friends. And more recently, the two bears have adopted a little dog, who they often like to take out with them, although they have to keep him on the lead because he gets very excited and runs away. So there you are then. Those are my keepsakes. Bit sentimental,
Yeah.
but I hope you like it. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you.
I'm called Mary, and I'm a member of Kira's Women's Project. Back in 2018, the art group and the poetry group got together and did this poetry book, and it was to be published. And this is very, very special to me because it's the first time I have ever been published. So this is a very special keepsake. And within this book, I have got 3 pictures of mine that has been related to a poem that another member has done. So the first picture is on, and that is the first picture there, and that is what it looks like. Then on the picture 2, and the poem with that one is called A Friend Like Me, and it will take a while to read it. So I'm not going to read out the poems, I'm just going to show you the artwork. And then the next one is called Pie in the Sky, and it is that. And that's what it looked like. So there you've got a pie in the sky on a little table, and then you've got a plate with a knife and a slice of bread. And that was it looked quite yummy actually. And then the next one, this was quite a difficult one to do and quite complicated. The poem's called The Fourth Wall, and I was trying to interpret it, and it was a bit difficult, but I came up with this and they thought it was appropriate for it. And within this picture, right, you've got various different things. And this is what I call a doodle. And then I saw the particular shapes. You've got a wonky clock there. Then you've got a dragonfly. Then you've got the bear. And then that's the art palette. And this is the stained glass window. So that was is actually one of my favourites pictures I did for the book. And I then I was very proud of this book, and it is a special keepsake of mine. So I thank you for allowing me to share this, and there you go, the end.
My name's Sheila, and my object is this little wooden lacquered box. This little wooden box used to be on my grandmother's dressing table, and inside was a locket. I lived with my grandmother, and when she was bedfast, one of us often sat in her bedroom with her, and she told us about the locket and the strand of child's fair hair inside it. One of her sisters, Anne, and her husband had emigrated to Bloemfontein in South Africa, which in those days meant that she never saw her again. The locket of hair was from one of Anne's daughters, who died of scarlet fever. From South Africa, we also had an ostrich egg, a Kruger ring, and a glass commemorating the Boer War, all of which were objects of interest at a time when we didn't travel very far. Her sister and husband died quite young, and their other two children were sent back to England to school. Years later, we met one of their grandsons, and we gave him the locket and the other artifacts belonging to his grandparents. My grandma always said I could have her little wooden box, and now it lives on my dressing table. And that's the end.
The date is Saturday evening, the 13th of June, 1992. Sue and I traveled out of Vancouver into the valley, and we're going to a farm and doing some fire walking. That was a bit scary. We had to sign a document that said we wouldn't sue if we got burnt. So 12 of us turned up. We went outside and built the fire, and came back inside and had a 4-hour preparation in what we did, creative visualization, etc., among other things. And after the 4 hours, we went outside and raked the coals, and the temperature was 1400 degrees centigrade. So we gathered and held hands and said, every step I take on this earth is sacred. And we could walk when we wanted to. I walked on my own and Sue walked on her own, but we wanted to do it together as well. So we were asked to, in the visualization, to have an image of something that we wanted to achieve in our life, and hold that at the end of the fire that we walked towards that. It was a metaphor for moving through life. And I suppose it really was an altered state of consciousness. Anyway, the two of us walked together, and a man went through the fire on his hands and knees and was playing with fire. It was absolutely amazing. So after the 12 of us all did it, not one person had any burns on their feet. When we came back to the group inside the farmhouse, we all had we were all quite excited and congratulating everybody. And there was one young fellow who said that when he approached the fire, he thought, "Oh, I'm going to get burnt." So Julie, the leader, took him aside and got him back into thinking about the image that he wanted to have as he moved through life. And then he said to the group, after I got rid of my ego, I could do it. And he did it. We all did it. And actually, that image that I had has come true.
It was Blue Peter, the TV series that organised for sport to raise money for sport aid, and it was a fun run in the grounds of Harewood House. And me and my sister took part, and we met John Leslie and Diane Louise Jordan after the event, and my dad took a photo, and it ended up being in the York Advertiser, and I really enjoyed the whole event. Sometime after that event, I went with my family to London, and whilst I was in London, I wrote a letter to Blue Peter, and after that, I received a letter, typed official letter, and a long typed list of attractions and places that I could get into with the Blue Peter badge. And so I was sent a Blue Peter badge and a sticker with the official Blue Peter logo on. I've still got the Blue Peter badge, and I feel so proud that I've got it because of me writing the letter. But I wrote the letter, and it was my idea, and I signed it, and my sister signed it. And when I received the letter, Blue Peter said that the badge was for my sister and the stickers were for me, and I wasn't happy about that, but I didn't complain or anything. And I must have been around 14 at the time. And there's an age limit of when you can use the Blue Peter badge and get into the attractions. And so there wasn't that many years left I could use it. But I still wore the Blue Peter badge out and about for a while. And I remember walking around town wearing it, especially walking down Piccadilly, and people were sat at the bus stop staring at me and probably thinking I was part of Blue Peter. And I think that's it now.
Over matter with the fire walking. That's fascinating. But I'm here under false pretenses, I'm afraid. I've got no keepsakes. I left my teddies behind long ago, and my mostly jewelry was stolen during a burglary. And last year I decided to burn all my letters and photos because, being an AWOC, who else is going to do it? So I have nothing hereditary to hand down. And I was thinking, what would I grab in the case of a fire? And so, being of a practical nature, I thought passport, money, credit cards. Most important thing to start a new life with no ties to the past. So that's my story.
Right, Sue again. And here is one of those perpetual calendars that you just turn day by day. And this now lives by our back door, but it did belong to my Aunt Mary. And Aunt Mary's story is that she, my dad was her elder brother, and he married and took us, the family, off to India before partition. And Mary went into the he was in the RAF, wing commander in the RAF, and Mary followed in his footsteps and joined the RAF, but she only lasted a few months before their parents fell ill, and she had to leave the RAF to come home and care for them. So first of all, their mum died, and then Grandad Lister married again, and then he died, and Mary was left looking after her stepmother, Dorothy, and these two women lived together very, very amicably and comfortably and looking after each other until Dorothy died. And then years later, Mary died. But Mary always had this adventurous streak and she wanted to go and do something. So in the 1960s, she went off to Karachi in India, and she was running an infant school. She was an infant school headmistress by this time. So she went off to Karachi, and she has got a lovely book where she tells stories of what happened in Karachi at this school. And all this is a huge book, right? Huge book. And Adventures in Karachi by Mary Lister. And she wrote letters home to Dorothy. So all the book is full of letters, daily letters, daily letters to Dorothy at home in Harrogate. And one of these letters, she's talking about the new staff at the start of term. And she says, and now I had a good natter with the staff, including telling them that I don't want this term centered around open day. I would rather the open day was a flop than them all working with one eye on what they were going to display. I told them that I'm more interested in what goes on educationally from day to day, and that I am not out to impress parents, no matter how VIP. I'm only interested in the teaching and the children's education. And on the other page here, she's remembering a time when she went to Bombay and she got home late at night, and she was outside the Salvation Army hostel, which was putting them up for the night. And she nearly got knocked over by 4 drunken men on the pavement. They were young and they did it deliberately. And then one followed me. I don't think he expected me to suddenly turn and walk right into him and the others. I was angry, and like old Roy, my West Highland Terrier, my hair nearly stood on end. I let fly, and whether they understood or not, they disappeared like magic. And then in the 70s, my Aunt Mary, she's obviously a woman who knew her own mind, went off to Botswana in Africa, and she was in the infant teaching at the infant headmistress of an infant school, and they had all their books in English and none of it in the local dialects of the area. So she proceeded to write and have illustrated books in their own language. And she was, you know, a bit notorious in both Karachi and Botswana. And I was very glad to have her books and all her memories and all those letters. And it's probably what spurred me to keep a daily diary since I was 13. So the Lister lives are on record. And here is the calendar that sits at our back door, reminding us of Auntie Mary.
Mary again. This lovely little brass elephant was given to me when I was around about in my early teens, and this was on a reception desk in a hotel that was being developed, and my father actually salvages for me because he knew I liked elephants and miniature things, and it's been with me for at least the last say 45 years, going everywhere that I've been living. And Dad understood me, and he was basically very, very helpful with me and with my dyslexia. And he was a very special parent, and I appreciated for his support and everything that he did for me. And that's it.
Is a little bell. I don't know how old it is, but I've had it ever since I was little. It used to be in a toy box of odds and ends, and it's been in the house now for over 50 years. It got tucked away in various drawers, put up on mantelpieces, and then towards the end of my mother's life, it found a use in being on her bedside. And if she needed me in the middle of the night, she would ring the bell, and I would help her either to the toilet, or make a drink for her. In a way, I came to dread the ringing of that bell in the night, because at the time I was still working at Tesco's and doing the early morning shifts. And I suppose I could have got rid of the bell afterwards, but I've kept it here, and it has a little ring of its own. Every time I hear it, it reminds me of my mother calling me in the middle of the night.
Back in 1991, I won a couple of tickets from BBC Radio York to go to Roundtree's Theatre to see Gilbert and Sullivan's, I think it was Yeoman of the Guards, I can't remember what play it was now. And I went with my mum, and there was a man on stage, and his name was called Lee, and I really liked the look of him. And then in the program, it said that they were looking for more members to join. That it was the York Youth Operatic and Choral Society. So I ended up joining, and I went to the rehearsals at Kingsway North Junior School on an evening once a week. And there was two people there that I knew. One of them was in my form at school, and one lived down my street. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know that they were part of the group until I got there. And I felt really out of place because nobody else had joined around the time when I had, I don't think. So anyway, when I was there, I took part in the rehearsals for Iolanthe, which was the next production. And I rehearsed and did performances in different places in York before the actual production of Iolanthe at Roundtree's Theatre. And I was the Fairy Queen's assistant. And I don't think that's an actual character. But I was no good at dancing, so I couldn't really be part of the fairies, the main chorus. I was dressed like them, but I'm sort of glad that I didn't do the dancing and stuff that they did. And so, yeah, it was on for, I think, a week at Roundtree's Theatre in the September of 91. And I had to, because I was a Fairy Queen's assistant, I had to go on and off stage and get a musical instrument off one of the characters. A little wooden, it was like a flute really, and maybe a wand, and take that off the fairy. And so I was backwards and forwards, so to make sure I knew what I was doing and remember when to go on and off stage. And there was only Iolanthe that I was part of, because I left after that. And then at Christmas, I joined Robinson Crusoe through a different amateur dramatic group, and they're the only two amateur dramatic groups I've been part of. And I think I've said everything now.
We're still back in the 1992 when I was in a play in Vancouver called Agnes of God. I played Mother Superior, and there were three women in the cast, Agnes the young nun and Mother Superior and the psychiatrist. It was an important play because it was very wordy and very, very intricate. I was up for Best Supporting Actress in the BC Drama Festival, which I didn't win, which didn't matter. But I have to share with you three funny things that happened. When we were in rehearsal and the guys up were hanging all the lights up, and it was Friday night, and we hadn't opened yet. And I came to the center spot and I wrung my hands and I said, "You formed your opinion about her, haven't you?" to the psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist said her words. And then I didn't know what to say. I thought, who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to be doing? I absolutely dried up. So she said, "Do you believe Agnes is innocent?" That was not her line. And I said, "I don't know," which was not my line. And then she said, "Well, I can't help you." And I said, "Oh." And she came and got me off stage, and I blew 6 pages of dialogue. We couldn't believe it. Fortunately, it was only a rehearsal. The director came and he said, "I thought that first act was a bit short." And then another time we were in rehearsal, and the cross that I had Jesus with, you can see in the photo, fell off the dress that the habit I was wearing, and fell on the floor. And of course, I'm not religious in any way, so I didn't know what to do, but I cannot come out of character. I picked the Jesus up, kissed it, and put it into my pocket. So everybody had a good laugh about that, but fortunately it never happened in the show. And there's some funny other things that happened, getting the habit on the wrong way, and I didn't get it on in time. This is all rehearsals, and it was a wonderful experience, and I'm very happy I did it.